Okay, this is Jimmy Job, and you're listening to Motor City Rock Talk. Today, my guest is a member of a band that was out, I think, in the 90s, Farley's. And they put out an album called Altered Boys, which is a total Detroit classic, at least in my opinion. My guest today is the lead vocalist and the master Rassta Farley himself, Mr. Mike Mitchell. Hey, Mike, how you doing today?
Great, man. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. My producer, Heat Miser, of course, from Vietnam Prom, talked about you quite a bit, and of course I went and did an interview with Bobby Noxious from the Zots, and I know he played bass with you and all that, and he had talked highly about the band, of course. He even gave me a copy of the CD, which I have, and is, like I say, is highly entertaining. Let's start out with a little background. Tell me a little bit about where you're from and what got you into music, and maybe some about your early bands or whatever.
I grew up in Lincoln Park, Michigan. Have a brother that is 10 years older than me, and he's like my older twin brother, and he started influencing my taste in music really early on, and he was always into the weird stuff, and we kind of grew up listening to the crazy 80s stuff together, along with stuff like Monty Python and Frank Zappa, and just gaining a real sense of humor with our music. And me and him started the Farleys in 1996, and it was a two-man band with a drum machine, and we were playing stuff like Tennessee Ernie Ford and some Steve Miller, and we were covering a lot of stuff, kind of making fun of music and making noise and having a good time.
Oh, that's awesome. Are you a guitar player, and you play any instrument also?
I only do that stuff in the privacy of my own home. Stage, I just sing. If I pick up an instrument, it might be a piece of metal or a drill or high rack, or if I can make something into an instrument that ends up making it to the stage, I'll play it. But if it's store-bought, I'm no good at those in public.
But do you play guitar enough to write? In other words,
that's what I do at home. I will write with guitar. Even piano. I've got them all. I've even got the Bogdan box bass, the stand-up bass made out of a cardboard box.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, I do a little bit of everything when I'm writing and try to keep it real and interesting.
Now, do you ever play any kazoo on stage? I mean, talk about funny instruments and whistles.
I believe it's happened. At least if it wasn't a kazoo, I think it was the piccolo, and it was actually shaped like a pickle.
That's incredible. Now, you say you formed a band, you said with your brother as a two-piece around, what, did you say 96, 97?
Yep, 1996. The first time we walked into open mic night and set up and played in front of people was 1996. We'd been entertaining our family members since I was probably about 7 years old and he was 17. So
cool.
Somebody suggested that we do an open mic night, and we eventually did.
Well, that's great, man. That's a great way to start.
We never practiced. We improvised most of our shows at the beginning, and always walked away with a big smile on our face.
Well, I'm sure your audience had a big smile on your face too.
Some of them didn't get it at all, and I'm sure there were a few bars that were like, okay, why are these people leaving?
I can relate to that because I've always been into that kind of stuff, tongue-in-cheek type of lyrics.
Absolutely.
Writing funny stuff. That's
saying the shit that not everybody wants to hear.
Yeah, would dare to hear. Speaking of which, on this release, Altered Boys, were you an altar boy? Was this?
It's a true story. Me and my good friend at the time, we had met at St. Henry's in Lincoln Park, and we were altar boys together. We, did the altar boy thing every week, and we sat in the pews and made each other laugh and did everything else. Well, we did everything an altar boy was supposed to do, except we did not get diddled by the priest. And then years later, come to find out, he was one of the first priests that was diddling the kid.
Really?
But he passed on both of us. He never even made a move on either one of us, and we just figured that we were too ugly for his taste.
Yeah, I heard that in the lyrics. guys. I thought that was classic. The reason I asked that, I was born and raised Catholic. As a matter of fact, my uncle was a Canadian priest. My aunt was a Canadian nun. And all that came about, and that was big time in the news and all that. Discussed that with them, and they were just, so horrified about that whole situation. It was so unheard of. But, in any kind of religious organization of any kind, I imagine there's going to be that kind of behavior, which is, totally unacceptable.
Right. Well, and it was horrifying because my mom was really active in that church and was like the church secretary for a while. Was really good friends with the priest that got busted. That's generally how they make their way into their lives. They find somebody that might be vulnerable and befriend them. And man, I was right there, and it could have happened, but it never did.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's some scary stuff, man.
I didn't bathe every day like I should have, and he was turned off, I guess.
Did you not keep your altar boy outfit as clean as maybe some of the other ones?
I was the pig pen. And like I said, my friend Kevin too, it was funny because I'm like, years later, I'm like, so did he ever? He was like, oh my God, no.
Did you guys, by any chance, know one of the people that it did happen to?
I don't know. I'm not sure. After he got, I didn't look too far into it, and I was in the St. Henry's youth group, and I sang in the choir for a little while, and I don't know. I honestly don't.
Oh, that is weird. So as far as singing in the choir, is that pretty much? You mentioned that you and your brother and all that would entertain them, but is that where you got somewhat of a formal introduction as far as training into vocals? Or
if I did get any training out of that, I don't think I was ever a very good singer. I can carry a tune and stuff like that, but it was with the Farleys, it was more about getting what we were saying out. Once we started writing our own original music, I think I'm more of a poet than I am a singer. I've been fortunate enough to get with musicians that were able to create the music, put my words to. That's Jimmy, the guitarist. He has been with the Farley since '98. He joined as the bass player, eventually started playing guitar. Yeah, he did a lot of structuring and writing the actual music for the songs and turned them into songs. I kind of read them to him as I would like a spoken word or something. And he takes the beat that I have, I guess.
Yeah, the meter.
Yeah, because notes and chords don't mean anything at all to me.
Right, okay. I just wondered because you said you played a little piano, if you had any kind of piano lessons as a child.
Yep, no. My mom tried to teach me, and she taught me a few little songs. She was a piano player. I think I learned more from staying up late, and on PBS there was a program called Play the Piano in a Flash.
Yeah, I do remember that.
It was awesome. It was awesome. I learned a lot from it, and I still refer back to it actually if I'm doing anything at home.
Where did you guys play out mostly in those days? Where were some of the clubs that you played?
We started at Scalise's in Allen Park.
Oh, yeah.
That was our Thursday night for years. We would go to their open mic night, and we didn't do a whole lot outside of that for a couple of years at least. And then we ventured out to the Old Miami and 3rd Street Saloon and Paychecks and the Bullfrog.
Yeah.
Played a lot of the local spots.
Did you play anything more or less on, you mentioned Bullfrog, I know that's the one on Telegraph, isn't it?
Yeah.
It wasn't Telegraph. Yeah. Did you play much on the west side as far as I don't think I'm not sure if the Studio Lounge would have been there, but like the Token Lounge, which I think might have been.
We did, yeah. We played the Token. Vietnam Prom. There was a night at the Token Lounge that was with Vietnam Prom that I'll never forget, man. Those guys blew me away. The many times that I've seen them live, they never ever disappointed, and it was, I think the most memorable had to be the Save the Vegetables that was at the State Fairground when Johnny Fishsticks was via satellite from jail singing on a TV. It was absolutely phenomenal fucking show.
So you saw several of the shows. Did you see the Raising Princess Di show by any chance?
I did not.
No. That one's on YouTube. You should check that one out. That was another. when did the band become, like the full force as far as like Bobby joining the band, Mike?
Well, it started in 1998. I would say it definitely started heading in that direction. We recruited a drummer first. That was we got rid of the drum machine. Well, actually, we brought to the drum machine to every show just in case the drummer was missing in action or too fucked up to play.
Right.
but no. Chris was our first drummer, and he was immediately dubbed Chris Farley. It was magic, and he was a great drummer for us, and he lasted quite a few years. But eventually moved out of the area. We recruited many drummers played with us, many bass players played with us, but eventually when we found Mikey and Bobby, they were the perfect fit. They were definitely along for the ride. They got it. Finally, there was somebody who actually got it. Chris at the beginning definitely got it, or he would never have put up with a lot of the shit that we used to pull on stage. These guys got it. It's been great with Bobby and Mike.
I also thought it was really neat, like you said, these guys, they had really cool, funny, kind of like stage names. Bobby Noxious, Mike Mouth, Rassta Farley, Jimmy Danger.
That was always more important to me than anybody else. And I used to give everybody the Farley names when they first, and it was such a revolving door that everybody got a Farley's name. And there was some guy, I can't remember what his real name was, but we called him Daisy Duke Farley because the first gig he wore some really short shorts. And Jimmy Danger, I don't know, he brought that to us, and we originally called him Gordon Farley, and he outgrew that name. He was like, yeah, I don't want to be called fucking Gordon Farley no more, damn it.
Well, I think that's kind of cool, man, because that's reminiscent of what the Ramones did, which I...
Absolutely, absolutely.
The band is a family. We're all brothers. Whether we're brothers or not, we're brothers in this band, that kind of thing. That's really cool. In the early days, when you guys were out playing, who were some of the bands that you recall, opening for? You mentioned Vietnam Prom, obviously, but were there some other bands, that you played with, like, in any kind of consistency?
Yeah, we got hooked up with Downtown Brown on a regular basis, and they brought us to some really good shows at we opened for them at the Majestic Theater a couple of times and played some of the outside venues with them at, what was that, Old Theater Bazaar out by the State Fairgrounds.
Oh, yeah.
That was where that Vietnam Prom show was, and that was such a cool place to play. But we played with a lot of cool bands, and we actually got hooked up with Scott Ashton as a session musician in the studio. He never played any live shows with us, but he recorded an awful lot with us for cheap too. Really? That was a bonus because Pete was engineering our CDs and had remained good friends with Scott and Ron. And while we were recording our first CD, he's like, Scott's up north somewhere building a pole barn at his mom's property. He would probably come down and record with you guys for a couple $100. And we're like, well, fuck yeah.
What's the deal?
Even if we did nothing with the tracks, I would pay that much to hang out with him for a couple of days, you know? Studio and recorded quite a bit with him. We had the fortune at one of these outside shows. I don't remember which one it was. I roasted weenies on a plastic guitar, though, during the set. But we had the drummer at the time he was the drummer for the Afghan Wig, Michael Horgan. He was dating one of my wife's friends, was available, and we didn't have a drummer at the last minute. He was like, well, fuck, I'll do it. Okay, sweet.
Isn't that something about drummers, though, man? Because every band I've been in, there's been more drummers that have come and gone than anything else.
I still have the drum machine, you just in case.
I have a theory on that you might agree with me on. I think the reason drummers don't tend to last is because they're sitting behind all these cymbals and all these drums, and they're banging that shit that shakes shit around in their brain so much that they just can't remember to come to the next rehearsal.
That sounds exactly right.
I mean, I've had that happen several times. Not a single band I've ever been in that, a drummer lasted more than 6 months. Didn't matter if you're good or bad or playing a lot of gigs, they were loopy.
We had our drummer's car parked in the alley. We were loading into Corktown. We were in the alley right behind St. Andrews Hall. His car broke down, blocking the alleyway, and just so happened that Lou Reed was at St. Andrews Hall that night, and his bus couldn't get out, and we're getting ready to start pushing his car, and Lou Reed comes off bus and says, exactly what the fuck is going on here? And I got to meet Lou Reed because of one of my drummer's, fuck-ups. It was a beautiful night.
Well, sometimes it goes your way then, I guess. Was Lou really pissed, or was he just kind of...
No, he was kind of pissed. Yeah, he was pissed, but he was the coolest guy to ever be pissed off at us. It was fucking awesome.
I bet he remembered you guys for quite a while.
I'll tell you what, it was like, I'm sorry, but oh my God,
No, we can't get it moved, man. You're going to have to help us, Lou, or you're going to be stuck here.
Right. He's back there pushing the car with us.
Did you get any pictures, or did you have a camera on hand to get pictures?
Oh, no, we were 2 sheets to the wind and didn't even fucking think about it, It was one of those afterthoughts.
Right, of course.
I called my brother that next morning and told him. He was like, oh my God, But no, we hardly took pictures with Scott when we had him in the studio. It was funny. We should have got pictures, but no, we really didn't. We got a few of him behind the set in the studio, but none sitting in the studio with us.
Wow.
And, yeah.
You would have thought you might have videotaped some of that just because
well,
of him
he was such a normal dude.
Oh, yeah.
And it was such a relaxed situation. It didn't even feel like we were sitting with one of our idols. He was so cool.
Was this actually in a studio? You mentioned the producer was Peter Blanker. Rock City Studios. Was that like a real studio? Was that his basement, his home, or something? Or?
It was a studio that was based in a home.
Oh, okay.
And it was more for the anonymity of the musicians that were coming in to record. He had done quite a bit with the Ashtons and Dark Carnival and Cub Coda. Captain Sensible he had a lot of people coming in and out of there. Shook a lot of really cool hands. Yeah, they preferred the anonymity.
No, I can understand that. As far as that, you had mentioned some other CDs. The only one I have, and I'm not sure if it's just because that's the only one they had to give me, was like this. How many CDs or recordings did you guys do officially?
Well, officially that were professionally presented, we have 3. We have one that all of our recordings with Scott wrapped into one, because we had like a couple of EPs that we did, but didn't really do anything professional with them. But that one's called Crooked Bit. And then the second one was From the Bloody Banks of the Detroit River. And that was a 5 or 6 song EP loosely based on, you know the story, with guy that drove his kids into the river. Yeah. There's a song we do that loosely based on that, although the names have been changed to protect the guilty.
I get you. Now, whereabouts did you do all these? Did you do all these recordings at the same studio, or did you start out doing somewhere else?
Those all were done with Pete at Rock City in a couple different locations. Rock City moved from the Brownstown area out to the Belleville area, but all 3 of those were done there. We put out a recording. Me and my brother did a recording, and it was improvised on a multi-tracker, and we dubbed over cassette singles we got from the Wyandotte Record Exchange when it was open. Guy donated us a bunch of cassette singles he couldn't sell, and we taped the thing and we recorded over them, and we drew our own covers on them, and we gave them to anybody that would take them. But
that's cool.
Yeah.
So were you giving them out at shows?
Yeah, that was when there was still cassettes around. You know, and now people don't even have a fucking CD player.
Yeah, well, cassettes
you give people
and
a
vinyl
CD
are
and they
coming
look
back.
at you.
Yeah, cassettes and CDs, cassettes and vinyl are coming back. But you're right, because everything is streaming and everything, it's on YouTube. You don't really need it. It's hurt the industry quite a bit, which has also turned out to hurt the artists, because they get pennies on the dollar for anything that's streamed these days, at least from people that I talk to. Now, are any of these recordings you're talking about, those early EPs or whatever that you recorded there, available in any way, form, or fashion?
You could still get all 3 CDs, but you got to come through one of us to get them. We have little stockpiles of them still, and I imagine we play out. We'll of course bring them to shows and stuff. But yeah, I think right now my son has a little side business, and I think he's got some of the Crooked Bitch ones on eBay right now, $7 or something like that.
Oh, that's reasonable.
The main reason I put it out there, I wanted him to, is for any like Stooges collectors that want to have the definitive collection. You can't be missing this, because Scott Ashton playing original music.
That's true. I hadn't thought of that. That makes total sense. Diehards would want anything that would be related to that. And you mentioned, if you ever play again, are the Farleys still a functioning band?
Well, we just last year got together in a different studio. Don't know the name of the studio, and I had to Google Maps it to get there. We recorded 3 songs together of last year. We talked about playing out some shows, and man, life just keeps happening to me, and I'm always the one that fucks everything up. Okay, I can't make it this week, and that became a situation again. and we still all talk, and we're still brothers, and yeah, I love those guys. And like I said, there's no, I don't think there's any really shutting it off. We actually booked a show last year and had to cancel it because of me, but I can see us playing out.
That would be awesome. Other than Bobby, who's obviously with the Zots, are any of the other guys still involved in this?
They're still playing. In fact, I'm pretty sure they still get together without me on like almost a weekly basis.
It's set up so you can just come in there and do your thing.
Well, it's not just for the Farleys. Jimmy does a lot of his own thing. He has a side project that dubbed RUI, and he does he writes some pretty intense music, really good stuff. And it's definitely it's like somewhere along the lines of King Crimson and Pink Floyd. It's some really deep stuff. He uses sometimes lyrics he writes, or sometimes his dad was a poet, and he's taken some of his dad's poetry and turned it into some really cool stuff. So,
oh, that's really killer.
He did like a Robin Trower tribute act. John Lolio, who just recently passed away, he was the singer of that.
Is there a name to this group that you're talking about with Johnny?
Yes, Dover Soul is what they called it.
Yeah, any of their recordings available?
Through Jimmy.
Oh,
through
okay.
Jimmy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. In fact, if we all still talk, and if somebody was to hit me up for Jimmy's recordings, I would definitely be able to facilitate that.
Oh, very cool. Well, I want to hit you up for some of that early Farley stuff, because if it's anywhere near as classic as this Altered Voice album, I mean, one of the songs that really, I remember they gave me this CD. I went and saw the Zots play at Road Rangers about a month or so ago, and of course Robin told me about the Farleys when I mentioned Bobby Knox. He goes, oh yeah, man, he played with the Farleys.
Right.
And they gave me this copy of the CD. So I immediately after the show, when I was going home, when the night was over, I put it in my player. I was dying, man. I was almost crying. I was laughing so hard at some of these lyrics. And one of the ones I wanted to ask you about, I guess, is I got the herpes on Craigslist. Now, don't tell me that was a true story.
Fortunately, it was not. It was so funny because I wrote that. Like, we joke around a lot, and we were joking around on the way home from a practice. I wrote that one, and I got home and I ran in the house. I wrote it down really quick so I wouldn't forget it, and I brought it to the guys the next week, and they started working on it. And then on the way home from that practice, I had happened to hear the Donovan song, "I'm Just Wild About Saffron," and I was like, I called Jimmy and I said, what if we used, and by the next practice he had written the part that goes along with the beat of the Donovan song, and it was just magic. It's still hard to play that song without laughing.
I'm sure. I mean, some of these songs like Ramu for Lunch. You're talking about the noodles, like you were poor at one time, because I was poor. We had a band house, and hell, we lived on that shit.
That's a combination of just being pissed off because I work too hard and don't get paid enough. And, honestly, I'm not too poor to afford a meal, but grits for breakfast is one of my favorite breakfasts. For my blood pressure, I eat way too many ramen noodles, but it came into play. But yeah, I mean, we've all lived off the ramen noodles at times and stuff. What a perfect way to describe a bleak economy,
Sure, absolutely.
That was one of those dang Farley protest songs that these songs write themselves. I honestly get an idea, and like I said before, it's kind of a poem when I write it, but with that one, like I said, all I had to hear was Mellow Yellow was the song.
Yeah.
All I had to hear was that on the way home, I got the herpes on Craigslist, and it was like, okay, I'm gonna put my 2 cents in here.
There you go. Put your spin on it.
Yeah.
Have you done that with any other songs that you've written, whether it be on this or in the past? Heard something, that brought up an idea to your mind, or a melody that you wanted to sample? It's just
I wish that I could banter like Paul Stanley on stage live. I've always loved his flow and the way he talks to the crowd. It's so fucking corny but so intense. And that I'll in the middle of a set, whether we're in the basement or at a club or whatever, I always like to go into my own version of Paul. But he's definitely an influence on how I talk to the audience sometimes. And most of the time I don't sound nothing like him. So the only people that really get the joke are people in the band. But every once in a while there's people, I see what you did there. How y'all feel,
That's stereotypical 70s frontman, yeah.
They put us at the Allen Park Street Fair one year, and we're playing in front of a sea of fucking golf shirts. People are like telling us we should play some Alice Cooper, play something we know. They're yelling stuff like that.
Freebird.
You know, I think we tried to play "You Shook Me All Night Long" or something, and it was, oh my god, it was god awful. But they were so drunk, it was the best thing they ever heard. You know,
you should have been doing a Kiss song. You should always, you should always keep a Kiss song in your back pocket just for those occasions.
Absolutely.
You know, because so much of the Kiss shit's so easy. We did Strutter and Rock and Roll All Night, and that always goes over because everybody that I've talked to,
knows that.
They're all like, oh yeah, Kiss, man, they were one of the biggest influences. And that's so corny. You're right. You talked about Paul Stanley. The other one that comes to mind, of course, was always Oz.
God, yes.
Walking around like Frankenstein. I love you.
Yeah, doing the clap march.
Yeah, let me see your cigarette lighters.
And put us booked with bands like that around the area. I shouldn't mention any names, but they put us in a show with Halloween one time, and Halloween sets up this elaborate T-shirt stand. I believe they might have had their own security. I don't know. I just thought it was a bit much, and like, okay, why did we do this one?
Where was this at? Do you remember?
I think it was at Scalisi's.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I think it was at Scalisi's. I begged them to give me a T-shirt, but they wouldn't. They didn't like us very much. Disrespect. I have a copy of, I believe it's "Don't Meddle with Evil."
Yeah, that's their first
Still
album.
from back in the day, and man, what an album! What a fucking album!
Did you guys ever? Because I'm really wondering if I'm missing out on something as far as any of the songs on this album or any of the other ones. Ever do any kind of a video, even if it was like this basement or live of any of your performances?
Yeah, we have some videos that are on YouTube. Some are just like put to like non-copyright photos and films and shit like that. But somebody did, I think it was Mikey, sat down and dissected a bunch of live footage, and even us just jamming in the basement and stuff, but put it to I got the herpes on Craig. And that's probably our only like official looking video that is any bit of professional, but in a very amateur way.
Right. But I mean, are there any videos that you're aware of, like people just shot? Okay.
They're up there on YouTube. Max Green, the Truth Porn Militia guy, he put a couple, I think he recorded the show we did with the Angry Simones at Smalls. There's a few that'll pop up, like somebody uploaded an early version of what would become the Crooked Bitch CD. It was called Euthanasia, and that was this early stuff we did with Scott, and that popped up on YouTube. I was like, oh, who's this guy?
Right.
Yeah, if you search like the Farleys Detroit, you'll come up with some stuff. Chris Badney Bogdan, he played bass with us for about a year, and then he did
really? Wow. You're talking about Chris Bogdan that played with the Cadillac Kids, right?
Yep.
Okay, the last thing I'm going to ask him is, and I try and ask, performers or artists as many times as I can remember, out of the shows you've done over the years with Farley's, is there a certain one, based on maybe performance or some kind of weird shit that went down that comes to mind in your memory as one of the fondest shows you did?
That's a tough one. So many. Like I said, we always go into every show looking to have a good time, and we've played with so many great players and stuff like that who've stepped in and played with us. Too many to name. Oh my gosh. Probably the very first time me and my brother went into open mic night, not knowing what to expect,
right.
And we're completely improvising with the drum machines. We knew what we had to hit song. We closed the show with Dance 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 by Steve Miller, and it was the most punk version of that. It was just like the most insane feeling in the world, and it was the beginning of it all, and I knew that this was what I wanted to continue to do.
Great.
It's like, we're in control for the next 30 minutes. Some of you are going to get it, some of you aren't. Let's go from there.
That's awesome. Did they invite you back during this week?
Oh yeah. Well, it was open mic night, so they couldn't do it. They would have had to lock the door.
You were just a regular act there. So do you think you would have been, if it was the Gong Show, would they have gonged you?
The first night, probably. we would have fought them tooth and nail, though. They would have had to get through us to get to the gong.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. I'm going to let you go. I really appreciate you talking with me today, and I've got to get in touch with you again because I'd really like to find a way through you to get some of those early recordings, because this stuff, is, like I say, Pete Meiser told me all about this. He he knew my sense of humor, my background. He goes, you're gonna really love their music, and you know, he goes, the Rassta Farley, he goes, this man, you know, was probably one of the best front men in town. You know, he didn't say you were the greatest singer, he just said you were one of the best front men. And he always said he had a blast seeing you guys, and he knew it would be a good interview, and it certainly has been.
Awesome, brother. Well, yeah, man, drop me a line and I'll definitely send those your way.
I appreciate it, man. All right, well, you have a good night, man. It's been great talking to you.
You too, man. Thanks.
Take care. Bye-bye. Okay, that was Michael Mitchell, a.k.a. Rassta Farley. Don't let me say that wrong twice. From the Farleys. Just a really, really fun band that were around in the mid to late 90s, apparently, from what he had stated. You know, their album, the one that I've got, the CD, I should say, called Altar Boys, just some classic tongue-in-cheek type lyrics like, you know, Altar Boys, Ramu for lunch, I got the herpes on Craigslist, the world's greatest actress, and many, many more. Hopefully these guys will get together, you know, and do another show or reunion show sometime this summer, because if they do, I don't want to miss it. And I'm sure once you hear their recordings of their music and these lyrics, you won't want to miss them either. With that said, I just want to mention one other thing. If you like these interviews, and I'm hoping you do, hit the like button, leave a comment, and if you haven't already, maybe subscribe to the channel, because I've got a lot of great artists, great bands that got lined up in the future, and it doesn't cost, but it really helps me out as far as keeping the channel going and letting me know what you feel about it. Hey, are you into vinyl records? Well, I hope you are, and I know I am. And if you want to get some great vinyl, new or used, you need to check out Vinyl People Records, conveniently located at 34785 Ford Road in Westland. Phone number 734-329-2746. Their hours are Monday through Friday, 11 to 7, Saturday, 11 to 5, Sunday, 1 to 5. And if you've got any old records you want to get rid of and sell, the owner Donovan is always buying records, man. So come on into the store and check it out. Tell him Jimmy Jives. And anyway, like I always like to say, keep rocking.